The 2024 World Juniors were absolute chaos. There were upsets, fights, game misconducts, great goals, great saves, and as always, there was entertaining hockey. And if you don't really keep up with junior hockey, you should, because the World Juniors is a yearly best-on-best international tournament for the best hockey players under 20 years old. It's been around since the mid-1970s, which saw early dominance from Team Canada, but in the recent years, the tournament has gotten even more unpredictable with the emergence of new hockey countries like Czechia and Germany. Every year, the tournament is hosted in a different place, and it features the 10 best international teams. The teams you would expect to be there are always there, like Canada, Sweden, Finland, and the United States, and year in and year out, other countries fight to fill out the rest of the 10 spots in the tournament. This year saw Group A filled with Canada, Sweden, Finland, Germany, and Latvia, while Group B had the United States, Czechia, Slovakia, Switzerland, and Norway. The favorites heading into the tournament were those 4 teams I previously mentioned. Canada is always amongst the favorites as it is their sport. However, this year's Canadian roster was weaker than previous years and had lots of concerns on the back end with defense and goaltending. However, they did have an elite offense led by projected #1 overall pick, Macklin Celebrini. Then there's the host country, Team Sweden. Sweden's team was strong with a talented forward group led by Jonathan Lekkerimäki and Noah Östlund. Their defense was solid, highlighted by Axel Sandin Pellikka and Tom Willander, and they stayed strong in goal with Hugo Havelid. The US team headed into the tournament with a strong forward group full of top draft picks and skilled players. Their Boston College line of Gabe Perreault, Will Smith, and Ryan Leonard was expected to be very dominant. Their goaltending, led by Trey Augustine and Jacob Fowler, was amongst the best, and their defensemen, including Seamus Casey and Lane Hudson, are top scorers in college hockey. With a mix of experience and older players, the US team was a very well-prepared team for the tournament. And lastly is Team Finland. Finland's team had strong scorers like Jani Newman and Kasper Haltunen, with Arttu Karki leading the defense. 17-year-old Konsta Helenius is a standout center and is projected to be a high draft pick in the next year's draft. Going into the tournament, those were the 4 favorites. Czechia and Slovakia followed them with a chance at a medal, and Germany had made some noise in previous tournaments. And then Switzerland, Latvia, and Norway were just kinda happy to be there. Group stage was to decide who would move on to the quarterfinals and who would be relegated to a lower division for the next World Juniors. Group play started with 2 insane upsets as Germany took down the Finns, and Slovakia started 2-0 by defeating Czechia and Switzerland. Sweden's defense stood out as they started the group play going 3-0, posting 3 straight shutouts, and one of those shutouts actually being over Team Canada, before they eventually lost to the Finns in an exciting shootout.
In comes Newman on to lead. Newman scores! And the Finns win it in the shootout.
The United States had an easy-ish schedule for the most part, except for the close shootout win against Czechia.
Howard shoots, scores! Isaac Howard!
Canada cruised to a 3-1 record, with their only loss being against the tournament favorite Swedes. On the last day of the group play, Canada took on Germany, where 11 seconds into the game, Connor Geekie had what the refs thought was a high hit on German forward Samuel Schindler.
Oh, big hit, and it's going to be a penalty on Connor Geekie. Seconds into the game, Geekie knocks down Samuel Schindler, and this will be a penalty to Canada, 11 seconds in.
He received a game misconduct for this hit, which led to his brother Morgan Geekie, who plays for the Bruins, to say, "Didn't realize they handed out penalties for hitting too hard." But with that controversy out of the way, the group stage ended with the groups looking like this. USA and Sweden finished atop their respective groups, with Norway and Germany playing each other for relegation. The quarterfinal matchups were set, and we saw the first real upset of the tournament. Canada and Czechia, with Canada being the #2 seed from Group A and Czechia being the #3 seed from Group B. Canada's less than ideal goaltending caught up to them as they lost 3-2 in regulation, with the game-winning goal coming with 11 seconds left, leaving all Canadians in heartbreak.
Drops it back to Beher. And now Stensel shot, scores! Stensel with a shot that deflected by Rousseau.
Which I have to say is a beautiful sight to see as an American. And who would have thought that a team captained by a Maple Leafs prospect would be out in the first round? The USA had no problem beating Latvia 7-2, Sweden took care of Switzerland 3-2 in overtime, and Finland knocked out Slovakia 4-3 in overtime to wrap up the quarterfinals.
Last line, a goal scored!
Before the semi-final games took place, Germany and Norway faced off for relegation. The loser of the relegation game would be sent down to the lower division, and after a back-and-forth game, Germany finally took it in overtime to avoid relegation. With that goal, Germany booked themselves a ticket to the 2025 World Juniors in Ottawa. It's January 2nd and the semi-final games are starting. USA is taking on Finland, while the underdog Czechs are taking on the host country Sweden. And despite Czechia taking a 1-0 lead, Sweden stormed right back as expected and took the game 5-2, thanks to 2 goals by Jonathan Lekkerimäki. So with that victory, Sweden marked their spot in the gold medal game in their host country, which is a pretty cool moment for the Swedes. And as that game ended, the Finland and USA game dropped the puck. Finland took a 2-0 lead, and the game started to get pretty chippy. The Americans went to the power play midway through the second, and it changed the game. A Snuggerud blast on the man advantage sparked a comeback with Cutter Gauthier finishing the job with 3 minutes left in the third period. This meant that Finland and Czechia would be playing in the bronze medal game, while USA and Sweden would play against each other in the gold medal game. The bronze medal game was filled with back-and-forth scoring and an insane 40 seconds from the Czechs, where they scored 4 goals to win the game 8-5, capturing their 5th medal as a separate country from Czechoslovakia. Now, the gold medal game is where the chaos really started. With Sweden hosting the tournament, about 90% of the stadium was cheering for the home team, instantly making the Americans the villains, and they definitely embraced that.
I don't know. We were talking about it before. I mean, who doesn't love being the villain?
The Americans jumped out to an early lead with about 3 minutes left in the first period as Gabe Perreault scored on a delayed penalty. That lead didn't last for long as Stenberg got a tip on a shot, and it tied the game early in the second period. Then Isaac Howard scored on a breakaway to make it 2-1 USA.
Isaac Howard busts in and restores the US lead.
Howard then doubled down on a sort of tough goal to give up, making it 3-1 USA. And just before the second period ended, the Swedes scored on a blast from the point from Lekkerimäki to make it 3-2, setting the stage for the third period. The USA ended up getting 2 more goals in the third period to make it 5-2, and Leonard made sure to kiss the Sweden crowd goodnight. That, along with 1 more goal for the Americans, pretty much iced the game, but the game was far from over. See, the whole game these two teams were going after each other. Hits were flying, players were taunting fans, and there was a lot of trash talk. And just when the horn was about to end the game, tensions rose even more, and fists started to fly. Obviously, dropping the gloves in IIHF play would result in a suspension, so everyone was just fighting with their gloves on, and if you ask me, this is sort of embarrassing on Sweden's part. After things cooled off a bit though, the final horn rang and crowned the United States as the champions of the 2024 World Juniors.